Hey, this is Richard with Salt Strong. Today I have a question for you. Have you ever been in a situation on the water where the bite's just not really that good and you're wondering, should I go and move locations or should I stay put and stick it out? Well, if you've ever had that question, then today's video is for you. So there are a lot of factors that go into choosing a spot or location to go fish for that day. However, sometimes when you get there on the water, the conditions just aren't quite what you thought they were when you were planning your trip. So when that happens, you need to be able to move and adjust. So today I've got 4 tips for you that are going to help make that decision a little bit easier. So the first thing that I think of is gonna be bait. So if you see bait, there's a very good chance that those predator fish are also nearby. So this is a really good indicator to stay, along with some other signs such as life, with birds that are either on the bank or even circling overhead. The second thing that I really look at is going to be water level and current. So this is crucial because many times what makes a specific area good is going to be the water level. For example, if you're in a shallow area that has a lot of oyster mounds or oyster rakes that are exposed, you may not really be catching a whole lot until the water starts coming in and starts to get over those shells. So the fish can kind of use them for cover and ambush points and things like that. So take note of that when you're in a specific area, and sometimes it really may be worth waiting an hour or so for a little bit more water to come back in. The third thing that I really look for is going to be wind. Are you on the wind-blown shoreline or the wind-protected shoreline? And many times this small but really key factor can kind of make or break an area. And some days you actually do have to fish both just to find where the fish are and what the trend is for that day. Because these things can matter season to season or day to day with temperatures and also where bait's getting pushed off of a flat and things like that. So wind is a really key factor, and just find the trend. And the fourth thing that I'm going to really take note of is going to be the water temperature. So this can be a big factor on where fish are located for the time of year and even time of day. Example, during the cooler months, fish may start out a little bit deeper in the morning and then get shallower as the sun comes up and starts to warm the water. Another thing to note on water temperature is instead of necessarily looking at the exact temperature, I encourage you to look at the trends. What has been, the main trend over the last week or even 2 weeks? And then what is the day that you're going out to fish? Has anything happened? Has there been a new front? Has it been very windy, or has there been more sunlight or overcast skies? Those are all things to think about as well and can really help out when you're making those decisions. Okay guys, so recently I actually just had this same scenario happen to me not too long ago. So I went out and I actually chose a new area that was a little bit further inland than kind of where all those fish had been over the summer months. So I wanted to check it out because we just recently had a cold snap here on the East Coast, and I wanted to see where these fish were transitioning to and if they were there yet. So when I ended up pulling up to the spot that I wanted to go, the very first thing that I noticed was it was a pretty weak tide for that day. We weren't around a full or new moon, and additionally, there was a pretty strong west wind and it was an incoming tide. Now over here on the East Coast, a west wind will actually counteract some of that incoming tide, which ended up making it even weaker than it already was. So first thing I thought of was there wasn't a whole lot of water movement and there wasn't a lot of current. So the second thing that I noticed, guys, was there was just not a lot of bait present. There wasn't shrimp jumping and there weren't a whole lot of mullet or anything even like that. And then lastly, the thing that kind of sealed the deal for me was I actually saw a film on top of the water. And if you guys have ever seen that, what it actually is a lot of times is algae. And the algae, for one, is usually going to be in places that are going to have a slower or really slack current and just not a lot of water movement, which is not good. And then also, it's usually going to be around some warmer water and warmer temperatures. When it gets colder and cooler water, that algae tends to not survive. So after I saw that, I knew it was time to move. So after seeing this, I did do some due diligence and I ended up going to another area roughly about a mile away. And unfortunately, the same exact conditions were in that spot as well. So at this point, I knew I needed to make a pretty big move. So I ended up going about 5 to 6 miles away, and I went to an area that I knew was going to have a lot better water flow And just to help out as well, I went to an area that is not going to have a lot of wind protection, because the main thing I was trying to look for at this part of the tide cycle was just some more moving water. So when I did this, I'll play this clip and you can see exactly how that made a difference in the day.
Man, that's a good fish. Might be a red, guys. Ooh, man. Yeah, nice red, guys. Nice red. That's a good one. There he is. Still fighting.
So I hope that these tips were helpful, and if you have any questions or things that you like to do when deciding when to move spots, then feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if you're new to Salt Strong, just know that we're the best online fishing club for saltwater anglers, especially if you're targeting redfish, sea trout, snook, or flounder. There's nothing else like it, and we actually guarantee that you'll catch more fish while saving time and money. We do this with our premium education, the exclusive insider community, and huge discounts on all the tackle you need. To learn more, go to saltstrong.com. Otherwise, I hope to see you again soon.